4 years ago, this week was when everything started to shut down here in West Michigan with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I've been feeling that in my body this week. For me, the last normal thing that I did was kindergarten orientation for my oldest child, who then never saw that classroom, right? Because they were in remote schooling for the next year. And so when the kindergarten orientation announcements went out, it brought up a lot of feelings. I don't know what those milestones or calendar markers are for you. Perhaps there was an event that was the last thing or the first thing canceled. Perhaps there's just a quality in the light that happens this time of year. But I invite you to be really gentle with yourself, because our bodies remember these anniversaries. And that was the beginning of a really challenging time for so many of us. So I invite you this week to be a little extra kind, especially to yourself, but also to everyone else, because we are all holding this memory, traumatic for some, stressful for others, deeply isolating for others, in our hearts and in our bodies. And it sometimes surprises us how it comes out. So just take breaths and be as gentle as you can manage. So come, let us gather and be grateful that gathering in person is possible, and be grateful that joining on Zoom is possible or watching on YouTube is possible. Come, let us worship together.
Welcome all. It is such a pleasure to see so many attending the service, especially given the time change. And I want to especially warmly welcome anyone who's new to People's Church, or who is first or second time. Feel free to ask to help yourself to any of our pamphlets all outside in the Commons. And I want you to know that today's sermon is going to be about questions. That is what today's sermon, Reverend Rachel, is about. So if you have questions, whether you're new or old, this is the time to be here. As Unitarians, we share many, many values, and we also come to the table with our differences. We are challenged to do our own looking for what matters to us most and what we think matters to other people, all creatures, and the environment, and then say what it is we care about. And from these questions and answers, together, here you are invited to bring your full identity, your joys, your sorrows, and your openness to what is around you into community each week. Please do not hide or erase any part of who you are. It's what makes us whole, what makes us completely whole.
And several announcements as we begin today. Following the service today, we have another edition of our Inquirers class. So that's our class for folks who are new or folks who want to learn more about the church. That's in room 19, which is the big room at the top of the stairs. Today it's focused on membership and what it means to be a member of the church. And we'll also have bonds of union out, which is signing a bond of union is the act that makes you officially a member of our congregation. So if you want to join the church, please come. If you want to join but can't be there today, please let me know and we can get you a bond of union. If you want to be eligible to vote at our May annual congregational meeting, you need to join the church by early April. There's a waiting period. And on a related note, your board this week set the date for the annual congregational meeting, which is May 19th, which is the Sunday that falls between Mother's Day and Memorial Day weekend. That's when it has been for as long as I've been here. So no great surprise, but it's good to have it official. Next Friday night at 7 p.m., there is a board game night here at the church. All are invited. Next Saturday afternoon is busy here at People's Church. So at 1 p.m. is the live streamed fireside chat with Layla Saad, author of Me and White Supremacy, sponsored by Isaac, which is the congregation-based community organizing group that we are a part of, alongside 30 other congregations in Kalamazoo County. So it's live streamed, so you can watch it wherever you are, but if you watch it here at the church, we will give you an ice cream sundae bar afterwards, so, And then at 3, we'll have another of our grateful gatherings, which is our stewardship conversations. So anti-racism, ice cream, and money in one afternoon. What could be better? You can come for whatever part makes sense. We'll even let you just stop in for the ice cream, but we might look at you a little askance if you don't stay for any other parts. Next Sunday, we're doing something special here. So it's a reverse service, which is when we sing the grown-ups out of this room and the kids stay here for a special service put on by Diane Melvin, our director of religious education. That's just for them. And the adults will have a variety of activities, from crafts and games to educational opportunities to spiritual practices to engage in. We'll also have different activities on Zoom for our Zoom congregation. We last did this 4 years ago, and I'm really excited to do it again. It's a very fun day. And now we get to sing.
Good morning. I invite you to rise in body or spirit. This one is in 4 parts, but you only get to pick one, unless you know how to sing 2 parts at once, in which case, let's talk. All right, so the first part is mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery, mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, good for you. Mystery, life. Here's part 2. Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? One more. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? What are we going? 2 more times. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Mystery. Okay, thanks.
Good morning, I'm Bob Davis, and this is your stewardship update. I'd like a show of hands as to who in the congregation has already attended one of the early gratitude events, grateful gatherings. Okay, super. And who signed up? Keep those hands up. Who in addition has signed up already for a future one? All right. Okay, so we see some opportunities here for the rest of you, hopefully, who have brought your calendars with you and can sign up on the back table or promise that you'll go home today and do this online and sign up for a gathering. This is a really neat way. It's been 4 years since we've done anything like this, probably even longer. and a great way to meet new friends and reacquaint yourself with old friends, and painlessly, in one short period of time, learn about the finances in a small setting, have a chance to ask a member of the board or the stewardship committee or even Reverend Rachel why we need your money this year, why we're asking what we are asking. And so please, please, please sign up. This is an independent church. Nobody is giving us money anymore. For a while we did, right. For a while the federal government gave us a little bit of money during the COVID in order to help keep staff hired and in place. But that's all stopped, and that's all dependent on us now, 100%. So come learn about what we need to do. Thanks.
At this time, I would like to invite Mara to come up and help us light the chalice. And while she is, I'm going to read a little bit by the minister of the Eau Claire, Wisconsin Unitarian Church, who's also a poet, Julianne Lepp. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths. Thank you so much, Mara.
We have chalices kindled today from people who are joining us on Zoom. So in addition to our chalice lit here at People's Church, there are chalices, flames burning this morning at Evergreen North in Oshtemo, Millwood Neighborhood, Schoolcraft, Parkview Hills, the Landing Apartments, Westwood, Matawan, Almena. What a gift it is that we can be together in space, or in time, even when we're not together in space. Also, Munson Lake, near Grand Junction. Now I'd like to invite our children forward for a story. Thank you, Bob. I am so glad all of you are with us today. And I don't know if all of our grown-ups know that our middle schoolers are doing our Whole Lives Comprehensive Sexuality Education program this year. So they are actually very, very rarely in our services. So this crowd of young people is actually much larger than what you see before you. Okay. So we have a story today. This is a folk tale from India. And it's a story about one very, very wise woman. And she was so wise that people would come from her village, but also all over to ask her questions about how to live well, how to solve problems, how to figure out things that were troubling them. And people would come from all over and ask her the most difficult questions that they could think of. What kind of questions would you ask someone who is so wise? How do I get smarter? Oh, that's a great answer, a great question. And she would be able to answer it. Oh, how do I get smarter without studying? That's an even better trickier question. Any other questions you would ask someone who, Avery, what would you ask? How do I get 1,000 Pokemon cards? Oh, and she would know the answer. What would you ask?
What started time and space?
What started time and space? Oh, that's such a good question. And she would know the answer. Fallon, what about you?
How did space get made?
How did space get made? Oh, such good questions you guys have. And she would know all those. What would you ask? How to get antimatter. And she would even know that. She would even know. One day, though, the kids in the village thought, but does she really know everything? And they thought of the really hardest questions, like some of the ones you just asked. And she could answer them. And there were a couple of kids who were still not satisfied and thought, we should be able to trick this woman because nobody can know every single thing, right? And so they went out and they caught a bird, and then they hid that bird behind their backs and went up to the woman and said, wise woman, what are we holding behind our backs? The wise woman couldn't see, but she got really quiet. And she could hear the feathers rustling against the children's hands, and maybe a little bit of chirping or squawking too. The bird probably wasn't so happy back there, huh? And so she said, it's a bird back there. And the children said, you're right. Oh, she's so wise. But then they thought of an even trickier trick. So they wanted to ask the woman, is the bird that we're holding alive? So if she said dead, alive or not, and if the woman said the bird was dead, they could show her this living bird. But if she said it was alive, they could smash it and kill it and show her that she did not know everything. Now, this woman never said she knew everything. That was what other people said about her. And so the children said, is this bird living or dead? And the woman again got very still and thought about it for a while. And then she said, children, the answer is in your hands. And they thought about that answer and they said, yep, the answer is in our hands because we have the power. Do you guys want to show? You can show the bird now. We have the power to protect the bird or to hurt the bird. And they felt a little bad about what they almost did to that bird. And they knew that sometimes there are things more important than having the right answer that day. So sometimes being kind and being gentle and not killing things needlessly is more important than being right. So I think that's an important thing to remember. Sometimes being right is not the most important thing in a certain moment. That's sometimes pretty tricky, but I think that's an important lesson for us all. So thank you, Mara and Dottie, for helping us tell this story. You're such wonderful actresses. And thank you, Hey Hey the Chicken, for making a special guest appearance. He's from Moana, if you don't know. He's a very not smart chicken in Moana.
He doesn't know how to eat.
He doesn't know how to eat, which is a problem if you're any living being.
He does know how to eat.
Well, he tries to eat rocks.
That's only.
That is the only problem. Is he?
I think he doesn't eat food. Also, he keeps walking.
Okay.
Straight to the wave.
He does keep walking straight off the boat into the water. Moana is very good if you haven't seen it. Hey Hey the Chicken is the best part. And now we're gonna sing you off to your classes. Can Hey Hey stay with me?
With love to guide you on your way, and may the
People's people are generous people. And that shows up in many ways in our community. And once a month, it is our practice to send what we collect in our offering, both in person and online, out in the community to do good and important work. So today, the recipient of our offering is Community Homeworks, and we have Chris Pradle and Nancy Servas here from that organization to tell us a little bit about the good work that they do. So please come on up.
Good morning, everyone. Everyone made it here today on the Spring Forward Sunday. Nancy Servos here is joining me here in a second and works with our fund development at Community Homeworks. But it is really a pleasure to be here, and we really want to thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and share the work that we're doing in the community and that this congregation has also helped make possible. Community Homeworks is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in the city of Kalamazoo. We now serve Kalamazoo countywide, so we even serve homes as far out here in Ashtimo. And basically, I just want to raise your hands. How many of you have been a homeowner at some point in your life? All right. All right. Now raise of hands again. Now, how many of you in the last, say, year have had somebody out at your house, or if you happen to be very handy, to fix something that has just not gone very well? All right. Almost as many hands as there were homeowners. And what we know is that there are thousands of people in our community, just like us, those individuals who raised a hand, who own a home, and are just one small thing away from losing it all. And so what we do as an organization is we see ourselves as part of the housing crisis. We are a homeless prevention tool in our community. There are many great organizations that exist to put people in homes, but what we do is we help keep people in homes that already have one. And there are thousands of these individuals just in Kalamazoo County alone. And many of the individuals we serve would become and have become homeless if we are not there to help them, or temporarily or permanently displaced. We've even served a family in the last couple of years. There was a mother with two children who was actually living in her car in her driveway because her home had been condemned. That's a reality. So what we do is we provide health and safety home repairs. So think, your furnace goes out in the middle of January. It's a $4,500 replacement minimum for a new furnace. Where do you go if you make $25,000 a year? You have a plumbing leak on the upstairs, and it's leaking persistently for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you can tell your ceiling's about to collapse. What do you do if you have nowhere to go and you can't do it yourself? That's where Community Homeworks comes in. We also provide empowering education. We love the work of empowering homeowners to learn how to repair and maintain their home themselves as well. So we offer 40 to 50 classes. They're open to any of us in the community anytime throughout the year. You don't have to pay anything to attend those. And we do everything from how to unclog a toilet to how to do drywalling. And so that's open to the public, and you can learn how to do that. And then we're also very excited this next year, we're going to also be launching a lending tool program. So if people come to our classes, they learn a skill to do the work. They'll actually be able to take the drill home that they just learned how to use in the class and use it themselves. So we're trying to think about that entire continuum. This last year, we helped keep 233 families in their home. So if you can envision, if you live on a street with a standard block of homes, I challenge you today when you drive by to count as quickly as you can how many homes you drove by on that block, and envision what impact it would be on our community if 233 people lost their homes, many of which are families. So anyways, we can't thank you enough for your support and helping us do the work that we do. And I'm going to pass it over to Nancy really quick. She's going to share a quick story.
Good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to be here, and humbled to be with you this morning. A couple of very, very quick real stories, because it's always, to me, relatable if there's stories. So one is Miss Kimberly. Miss Kimberly is a mom. She has teenage kids. She was a nursing student working very hard to that difficult degree. And right around the holidays, what happens? Her hot water heater is no longer functioning. So she came to us in despair. We fixed it. And when I talked to her, she says, but for you guys, I would be a mom of teenagers without hot water for the winter. I'd have to wait for tax returns to buy something. Today, Miss Kimberly is a registered nurse working in cardiovascular care and is thrilled beyond measure with her new position. So we helped her at that most vulnerable time. And she, of course, said, share my story. So I am. The other one is Miss Melba. Miss Melba is, I called her a senior citizen and she corrected me. She says, I'm not a senior citizen, I'm a seasoned citizen. So I'm going to talk about Miss Melba. Miss Melba has lived in a home for 30 years, the same home that she raised her kids in and are now caring for her grandchildren. Her home is close to 100 years old, which is kind of the average in the city of Kalamazoo. And she would go to bed at night afraid because her walls were hot and warm, and she was afraid about her electrical system. So she called us. We went in quickly, and we did the repairs that were needed. When I called her afterwards, she says, I cannot tell you how good it is to go to bed and feel safe. She says, and I said, you've lived in this home for so long. And she said, oh, that's nothing. I have not only lived in this home for 30 years, but when I was a young mom and my kids were little, I came to this home as a child to visit my aunt. So this is a home that's been in her family for literally generations. So when we talk about equity and we talk about generational wealth, I think of these kind of stories. I could go on and on and on, but I want you to tune into our website because we're going to be telling more stories via our website, and we're also going to be podcasting some of our stories. So stay tuned. Thank you for this time.
Would you please join me in giving thanks for all that sustains us? From the countless gifts we each have been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance, we bring these small portions to share in the works of love which none of us can accomplish alone. Thank you.
This is a community that supports one another. One of the ways we do that is we take time when we are gathered to share the joys and sorrows and important milestones of our lives. So if you have something you wish to share with our gathered community today, if you're with us on Zoom, I invite you to type it into our chat box. If you're here in person, I invite you to come forward, place a stone in our bowl of water, speak briefly, and share your name. And now I place a few more stones for all of the joy and all of the sorrow we're holding quietly in our hearts today, the joy and sorrow in our wider community and our wider world. Sources of reason and radiance, sources of courage and compassion, keep watch with those who work or watch or weep this day. May the suffering be soothed. May the weary find rest. May the sick be tended. May the dying and those who love them find peace. And may the joyous be shielded. May all of us know we are wrapped in a love that surrounds us always, a web that connects us to all that exists. For our spoken meditation today, rather than some beautifully crafted prayer, I'm offering you a practice that I do in my life, a breathing practice. In those moments when I have a little time, I know some of you can do hours-long meditative practices, but that's hard for many of us to manage. And so this is a meditative practice for those moments when you're waiting for the water to boil or standing in line, or just have a few minutes and know you need to return to your own body and your own breath. So you start with your hand and you trace it, you trace your fingers, and as you are going up a finger, you breathe in, and as you're going down a finger, you breathe out. So you breathe in and breathe out, breathe in. So I invite you to try that. Perhaps it will work for you too. Another practice I have is returning to some of the more meditative hymns that we sing here in those moments when I need to downregulate my nervous system and be a little calmer. And we get to sing one of those now.
I invite you to stretch up a little bit. Give yourself a good singing posture. We'll just sing this one together. We won't split it up.
You ask too many questions to be a minister, I was told years ago, just before I started seminary. The person who told me that, and I've told you all this story before, thought they were being helpful, but they didn't know me very well, and they didn't know Unitarian Universalism very well either. Because we are a people who ask questions, who wonder, who, when we are at our best, tolerate uncertainty and can say, I don't know, and have that be answer enough, at least for a little while. And this is part of why I love our annual question service so much. It's a chance for me to learn what sort of spiritual, moral, ethical, religious questions are on your mind and in your heart, and do my best to respond to them in real time. And also know that my responses will unfold over several months. I won't have time for all of your questions today, but I read all of them and will return to all of them. And every year there are a few questions that come in this service that shape whole services because they just need that much time to respond to. So thank you for trusting me with your questions. And now I invite you to write down some questions for me. So as you came in, there were blank pieces of paper in the foyer. If you didn't get one, we have some more over here, or you can go back there. There's pens around. If you're on Zoom, put it into the chat box. And when you are done, I invite you to pass your pieces of paper towards the center aisle where I will collect them. Okay, we have some special question writing music now.
This is from a book by the poet Rainer Maria Rilke, from Letters to a Young Poet. In a 1903 letter to his protege, the 19-year-old cadet and budding poet Franz Xaver Rainer Maria Rilke writes, "I want to beg you, as much as I can, dear sir, to be patient towards all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers, which cannot be given because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer." The next reading is from Becoming Wise by the great NPR broadcaster and poet Krista Tippett. "If I've learned nothing else, I've learned this. A question is a powerful thing, a mighty use of words. Questions elicit answers in their likeness. Answers mirror the questions they rise or fall to meet. So while a simple question can be precisely what's needed to drive to the heart of the matter, it's hard to meet a simplistic question with anything but a simplistic answer. It's hard to transcend a combative question, but it's hard to resist a generous question. We all have it in us to formulate questions that invite honesty, dignity, and revelation. There's something redemptive and life-giving about asking better questions.
Finding new questions. We have ceased trying to tie up all loose ends. We have discovered that life does not need to be neat. We have more questions than answers, and this is a great delight to us. We trust the mystery of life without having to possess it. We cherish the feeling of awe that has grown within our soul. Some see answers as strong and questions as weak. Successful politicians have all the answers. But I tell you the truth, the happy person is not the one with all the answers, because each new question is an affirmation of the delight of living. What new question have you discovered today?
I invite you to rise and body your spirit to sing this next song together. But more
This is a wonderful stack of questions, y'all. Let's see what we can do. Theologically, a church is a place of gathering for Christians. So why is People's called a church? I think the short answer is habit, but it is a more complicated answer than that. So when People's Church claimed its current name in the 1890s, the Unitarians were still mostly in the Christian umbrella, maybe with like a foot out from under it, but now we have since left that. And I know there was an effort during Roger Greeley's ministry, led by him, to change the name to People's Congregation. I don't know what year that was. If anybody was here and wants to yell it out, that would be great. And that vote failed. And so we are People's Church still. The name does make us decipherable to the wider community in a way that congregation sometimes doesn't, but it does have a Christian connotation, which is sometimes not helpful. So it's language. Language is complicated. How can I cultivate a feeling of caring for a person whose beliefs seem to me hateful and immoral? There were a lot of variations of this sort of question. I think this is front of mind and front of heart for us today. I think it's important to remember that all of us are more than our beliefs, right? We are all humans too, with other challenges. Sometimes it's helpful for me to remember that everybody was a baby, and just like, oh, you were once this small and helpless and fragile being. And of course, you're not there now, and maybe you're saying something awful, but at one point, I can at least have a little bit more care towards that baby that they once were, even if I can't quite pull it off with who they are now. And that's really helpful to me. If it's a person that's in your life, if you can be curious about who they are, and that doesn't necessarily mean you talk politics, but maybe you talk gardening or sports or what book they just read, and you can build a bond in some other way that helps you have a connection. Because once you've complained about a sports team with somebody or loved the same book, I think it's much easier to see someone as a full human. But it's hard. I think this is one of the major dilemmas of this age, right? Is how do we care for people who promote ideas that we find really objectionable? What is the oldest religion in the world? The academics say Hinduism, in part because there are really old written texts. And of course, Hindu and things that are, thousands of years before the Common Era that people are still reading and interpreting and using in very different ways than they did 4,000 years ago. But that is generally considered the oldest religion. But there are, how do we even know? Like the cavemen were probably doing something. But the oldest continually practiced faith is generally thought to be Hinduism. The UU idea that to question is an answer has always felt like a cop-out. I love this question today. Thank you. How can you question something you have no answer for? And I think for me, this is a practice of humility, right? There are things that we can't know. I feel like no human can know with certainty what happens after we die, for instance. Lots of people have ideas. And our practice is to keep a question mark, or not at least a semicolon or a comma on the end of anything we're claiming, right? Because we can't know. And maybe, I don't think we can only question. That's not who we are. There are things we know for sure, things that are on that wall about equity and dignity of people and interdependence. But it is really good that we don't claim more knowledge than we have. right? We don't claim more certainty than we have. And maybe to say to question is an answer is a bit too cute, but I think that's what it's gesturing towards. You have told us in the past to stop watching or reading the news. Isn't it important in a democracy to have a well-informed electorate? Should we be more concerned about the source of the news? So I have told you all to stop paying such close attention to the news, and I think that's good for us. So I think it's important to be informed, but there's a difference between being informed and watching cable news 4 hours a day, right? There's a space of checking in with what's happening in the world without turning it into almost a soap opera of what's happening in the news, right? I feel like a lot of our political coverage is who said what outrageous thing today, rather than these are the policies that are shaping our lives. So I think it's important to pay attention to where our news comes from. But I think, and I sometimes fail at this, but you don't actually need to follow every motion and every trial that our former president is involved in to be an informed human. And there are ways that paying attention so closely can get us to a place of inaction, right? It can lead us to feel overwhelmed. It can lead us to feel like we have done our part by reading the news, when actually reading the news doesn't change anything, right? It's the action we might take from that information. And so that sort of calibration point is different for all of us, of course, but I want us to be really mindful about how much political news especially we consume, because it can get us to that really overwhelmed place. And we don't need to let it hijack our worries and our nervous system and all of that. We have other choices. But you also can watch the news. I'm not putting a monitor on your TV or anything. Just something to consider, because I feel like in some circles, watching the news is considered, or being informed, whatever way, is considered virtuous. And I think it is that next thing you do that matters the most. How do we live with integrity when so many people are facing horrific circumstances? Besides giving money, how can we honestly extend care and also claim joy? This is another one that I think is the conundrum of our current life, right? So one of the reasons that I pray for the joyous every week is because joy feels so fragile in the world. And when we have it, we need to claim it and protect it and just revel in it, because we know it doesn't always last. We know it doesn't take much for that to shatter. It feels very fragile. And how do we live with integrity in this moment? The person already named giving money. You just had an opportunity to do that this morning. Thank you for being generous. But I really believe a lot of this is about loving the part of the world you can reach, right? So maybe that's just within your household, within your workplace, within your extended family, within the place that you live, within whatever circles you're a part of, your book club, your bowling league. Like, how does that circle become the kindest, justice-focused? I don't know what justice looks like in the bowling league, but I'm sure it's there, right? Like, I think you all can figure that out. But what does it look like to have these circles of the world that we want to live in, and then let them grow? Because other people will come into that circle and feel that care and then let it grow and grow. Like, I think that is part of what this church is for, right? Is to give us those chances and those times to practice what it looks like to have a world that's much more closer to our ideal than this world is. And it's really hard. You guys are asking the good questions. Okay, I think I just have time for a couple more But I know there's a number about spiritual practices, which are great, and I'll be talking more about soon. There's a couple about what happens after we die, which I have on my preaching calendar already. There's a question about what are the symbols on this quilt. And I want to highlight this quilt today, especially because our quilter, Donna Grath, died recently, and we had her memorial service in this space on Thursday night. And this space was covered in quilts. The family brought in many of her beautiful, beautiful things. So these are symbols of some of the world's major religions and Unitarian Universalism stuck right in the center to show many of our sources of wisdom. If we were commissioning this again, I would put maybe a microscope on there or telescope or something for science, maybe something for literature, something for personal experience, because those are all of our sources. But going around clockwise, we have the Star of David as a symbol of Judaism. We have the crescent moon and star as a symbol of Islam. Then the cross for Christianity. The 8-spoked wheel is a symbol of Buddhism, the Om symbol, which is a symbol from Hinduism and other religions of India, and the yin yang, which is a symbol of Taoism, which is a religion of China. Oh, I want to keep going, but we're almost at the end of time. This is a nice one to close on. What does amen mean or signify? So amen is from Hebrew. It's throughout the Hebrew scriptures, and it means so be it. So it's kind of the thing you say at the end of often a prayer or something else where you say, I really hope this is so. So it's a nice sign off or conclusion. So, amen. Thank you all. Oh, I wish we had more time. Maybe I'll do this again with just these questions shortly.
All right. Last time, I invite you to rise and body your spirit to sing together.
So this final song, Answering the Call of Love, Some of you used to know it as standing on the side of love. But then some folks who don't stand say, hey, can we change that? Because we get that it's a metaphor, but it also doesn't feel good. And it seems like we haven't figured it out in all of our slides, but we're working on it here too. And it's just a good reminder that we are all a work in progress. As we learn more, we do better, and sometimes we still make mistakes here and there, but that is the work we get to do as People's Church, as individuals within this community. So let's keep up that good and important work. Let us go in peace and go in love.